Good morning. Welcome to Monday Morning Medical Qigong practice. My name is Mary Francis. I'm one of the Eugene Wally students. Let's go ahead and start with our warm-ups. Opening up. We're going to work on one of the tapping warm-ups today. Allowing the feet to relax into the earth. The tailbone to drop just a little bit. Shoulders to relax, the jaw to relax, tip of the tongue is touching the roof of the mouth, extending the head up into the sky, breathing in and out through the nose, bringing the hands into loose fists and twisting from side to side. Warming up the low back, going as gently as you need to as we start out this morning. Keeping the arms as loose as possible. And then gradually allowing that lead arm to travel up the torso to the opposing shoulder. Allowing that lead arm to travel back down the torso. And then taking away the momentum, relaxing the hands, and gradually allowing yourself to come back to the center. Widening the stance, I'm going to reposition myself. We're now opening up the channels in the lower half of the body, the legs. Still breathing in and out through the nose. Allowing the breath to reach deep into the body. Transitioning. Working our way down the yin aspect of the legs, the inner aspect of the legs towards just above the ankle. Then to the lateral aspect of the legs, the yang side. Coming on up once you reach the glutes, sliding that left foot a little closer to the right, maintaining the hip width shoulder width distance. And then coming up to the low back, just underneath the rib cage, or wherever it's comfortable for you. Placing the palms at the low back, circling down the sides and up the spine. Gathering some warmth here at the low back, at the kidneys. Resting the palms at the low back and the kidneys, closing the eyes. Inhaling through the nose, guiding the breath and the chi to the low back, allowing it to fill up with energy. Exhaling, allowing this energy to flow to wherever it's needed within the body. Inhaling, guiding the breath and the chi to the palms, allowing the low back to fill up with energy. Exhaling, allowing that energy to flow freely to wherever it's needed. Inhaling and exhaling at your own pace. Allowing the mind to relax into the breath. Allowing the breath to relax the body. And allowing the chi to flow to wherever it's needed. And when you're ready, gently opening the eyes, letting the arms come back down to the sides and closing by bringing that left foot back to the right. We're working on our Golden Eight series today. Starting out, reaching for happiness, lung and large intestine. Inhaling. Exhaling. In and out. Inhaling. Exhaling. In and out. Working at your own pace with your own breath. Getting ready to close. Closing. Our heart, small intestine exercise, the archer. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Inhaling. Exhaling and continuing on at your own pace. Allowing the mind to relax into the movement. Getting ready to close. And closing. Spleen and stomach between heaven and earth. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Inhaling. And exhale. Getting ready to close. Closing. Turn and look back for the Sanjiao. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Inhaling. And exhaling. Allowing the mind to stay within the exercise. The breath guiding the movement. And getting ready to close. Closing. Our liver gallbladder exercise. Twist and release. Inhaling. And exhaling. In. And out. Getting ready to close. Closing. Kidney and urinary bladder bend for health. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. Out. Inhaling back to the start. Continuing on, working at your own pace. Allowing the breath to help relax the body, opening the channels, facilitating greater qi and blood flow. Getting ready to close. Closing. Our energy punch for the Ren channel, conceptual vessel. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Getting ready to close. Closing. Our energy jump in two parts for the dew channel, the governing vessel. Inhaling and exhaling. Continuing on to part two, inhaling and exhaling. Closing. Keeping the feet together, bringing the palms together, transitioning, transferring some of that wonderful, wonderful chi to the palms. Washing the face 9 times. Wiping the brow 9 times. Wiping up and down the nose 9. And then circles inward, outward 9 times. underneath the pupils. At the cheekbone, find a little divot, inward and outward 9. Dredging the channels of the scalp 9 times. Beating the drum. And then grasping the ears. Popping the cork. Circles inward and outward, connecting the ren and the do. Massaging the jaw. Our number changes to 12 times total, or 6 times each side, drawing the energy from the head down into the body, brushing down the throat. Continuing on down the breastbone. Placing the palms of the lower dantian, 3 to 4 finger breaths beneath the belly button. Circling up the right and down the left. Gathering all that wonderful qi that we've been cultivating into the lower dantian 9 times. And then switching directions, concentrating that energy 9 times. Resting the palms at the lower dantian, closing the eyes. Inhaling and exhaling at your own pace. As you inhale, gathering the qi into the lower dantian, allowing it to fill up with energy. Exhaling, allowing that energy to settle and store so that it may be utilized throughout the rest of your day. Inhaling, guiding the breath and the qi to the lower dantian, filling it up. Exhaling, allowing it to settle and store. Allowing the mind to relax, the body to relax. Letting the qi settle. Thank you, wonderful Qigong family. Thank you for getting up on this Monday morning to come practice with us. Henry, please tell us more about TCM medical theory, 5 elements, all that wonderful, wonderful good stuff.
Good morning. Hi, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Mary Frances, for another wonderful practice of the Golden Eight series. So we've been talking last week about 5 elements, control cycle, generating cycle, and we've gone through each of the elements, except for the last one. Okay, last but not least is the water element. So one thing that I want you to be very clear about is that we say it's the last element, but it also means it's getting ready for a new beginning, a rebirth. So in order to do that, you want to be able to understand where you are, what you've done before, and where you want to go next. Okay, so that's a lot about water and the quality of water, is finding that why in your life. And so that's also another aspect of water, is that wisdom. Okay, we say the emotions of water is wisdom and fear. How do those two work together? Okay, so in very practical sense, if you have a lot of water, you have a lot of imagination. You're in your head a lot. And so part of that fear comes from a lot of what ifs. Like, what if I put my hand on this hot stove? What if I run into traffic? What if I don't press the brakes, or if my brakes fail in my car? So there's a lot of what if the ceiling above me suddenly drops? So there's a lot of what ifs. And water, that fear though, right? There's part of it that's healthy, okay? And maybe too much of it is totally unhealthy. But too little of it also is not healthy, because you do want some of that wisdom from a little bit of that fear to help you understand, like what you should do and what you shouldn't do. I think one way you can look at that is, like, especially when you think about when you're in your youth, you're young, you don't have a lot of water, okay? You're not scared of anything. You just run into things, and it's your parents or whoever it is that's looking after you. Maybe you have older siblings, maybe you have friends that are looking after you and say, hey, don't do that. That's, you might die, or you might get injured, or, you might flunk out. So there's some practical fear that's totally okay, that we don't have when we're younger. But as we get older, life experience, also try and error. Maybe we did, break a leg jumping off, that 3-story building thinking we were Superman, or some other like life experience where we would learn some hard lessons, but we lived through it. But now we have that wisdom with us. Okay, so there is that. Going back to, so water, there's a lot in the head, a lot in the mind. And so dreams is about water. Water is a lot of dreaming, a lot of imagination. So there's a lot of deep potential for creativity in that mind, but it can also drift. So if it's too much water, someone who has that water is going to be in there constantly, and they may not be very attached to the world. And this is why you need something like an earth element, which is to control. Earth controls water. Okay, so that's 2 elements of 4. All right, so earth, metal, and then water. So earth is able to control water in terms of helping it ground, helping it understand the reality of today, so that it doesn't just drift off into the ether. Okay, so earth controls water, and we can see that also in the practical sense in the real world. When we look at things like dams, okay, they help kind of help the water from drifting too far away or off somewhere else. You also see it like in storm barriers in the ocean, close to the cities. Like you might see that in Marina del Rey, where there's these constructs of rock. And so you can see that as earth, and it's preventing, like, say, big storms and big waves from coming in and like hitting the coast and destroying, lives and people. So in that sense, that's the effect of earth and how that can help control the water. And you can look at it as if you have a lot of water, you can, throw some earth into it to help it congeal, to help. I don't know if you use cornstarch at all. Okay, in Chinese cooking, we use a lot of cornstarch. I don't really recommend it very much. There's some health issues with it too, but that's a very practical look at how water, if you need it to kind of congeal, make it thicker, all right, you throw so cornstarch in this case is what we say is the earth, and you throw that into this like soupy mixture, maybe it's too water, and it helps congeal it and make it a little bit more thick, all right? So that's how it controls. Okay, so then how do you generate water, right? Water is generated by the element before, in this case it's metal. Okay, metal helps guide and contain the water. And when we see that in more like ourselves, is when I say, like, when you're too much in your water, you're too much in your fear, you're too much in your imagination, too much in your creativity, perhaps. And the metal helps you clarify. to help you find that clarity in terms of like, oh, you have all these ideas, all these dreams, all these things you're imagining, and the metal helps you guide that so that it's going in the right place. So you're not, so that's, we say the metal collects water. Okay, that's the January cycle. Okay, so creativity, imagination. So all these things are really important for all of us. Okay, and the other big thing about water is that it really cares about truth. Okay, truth with a capital T, meaning like it's looking for the bigger answers in life, like why do we exist? What's the meaning of life? What are we here to do? And also, the water in all of us also tend to look at things about like justice, what's fair, what are some bigger things about society that we can create so that we live in a just world. So these are the bigger questions that water in all of us ponder. And that's very, if you can contrast that with, for example, wood, wood is not as interested in truth as a capital T. It knows what it knows, and then it uses that to go forward and do what it does. So in the context of like, say, a basketball game, okay, you know, there's certain rules around basketball, and it sticks by those rules, and it goes out and wins and does its thing. Okay, water is going to stay back and think, well, you know, what if you aren't playing basketball? What you're playing something else? What is this thing about basketball? You know, so it looks at the philosophical, bigger questions in life. So both are very important, and they balance each other out in that sense. So, so when you think about water, I think we all could use a lot more water in our lives, but also like we don't want to have too much water, because then you get stuck in this alternate reality, is what we say. And that's one of the traps of water, is that it tends to also want to be in altered states of consciousness, if you know what I mean. So that is definitely a trap, that it can go out there. And there's that OCD side, that obsessive compulsive, about fears, right? Like fears that you really can't reason out. So that's an excess of water. Like, you know, it can't control itself in terms of that fear and this loop that it goes through. And that's why the wisdom of it is so important. So the fear freezes you. Okay, so it freezes the water. And the wisdom helps unfreeze that water and helps the water move again. And that's inherently in the power of water. Water can really destroy itself through that fear. But on the other hand, if you gather that wisdom, okay, water becomes really unstoppable. Even like when you look at dams, when you look at these things, you know, those storm barriers, they can be easily overcome by a wise water. Water will destroy and go through everything. So once it has the truth, once it knows what's purpose, once it, you know, owns its own wisdom, okay, no one can stop it. No element can stop it, because its creativity means it can go around. So you can erect all kinds of barriers, all kinds of containers. If water is wise, it's going to be able to find those cracks. It's going to go around barriers, it's going to go under barriers, it's going to destroy things. And that's the immense power of water. You can look at the ocean. Okay, the ocean is much more vast than land in our world, and it can easily destroy everything in its path. So, you know, we all also have to own our gift of wisdom, and know that that can really overcome any fears, any barriers that exist. So use your water wisely. So you can, if you don't feel like you have enough water, surround yourself with people of water who have a lot of water. There's a lot of inspirational speakers. There's people who we say have a lot of water in them. Okay, a lot of spiritual leaders tend to have a lot of gift of water. There's also a lot of books, you know, philosophy books tend to do that. We also look at, you know, if you don't have enough water, meditation, Qigong, okay? This is how you access your own wisdom, your own knowledge base. You have a lot of wisdom inside of you, and we don't do a lot to access it, because we're always in this go, go, go world. So really, sometimes it's very important to sort of stop, you know, focus inward and connect with the real who you are. And through that, you're going to discover your own water. Okay. And if you have too much water, then you want to use some earth. But I would really caution, unless you know, it's kind of like cornstarch. Or if you use too much cornstarch, I don't know if you ever cooked with cornstarch before, but I have. And you know, when I was younger and cooking, and I used a lot of cornstarch, it turns into a glob of goo. All right. So you don't want your water to become a glob of goo, per se. All right. It's not fun. And I say that energetically speaking, also if your mind turns into a glob of goo, that's also not good. So you really have to be careful of how much, if you feel like you have too much water, careful how much earth you add, because you don't want that goo. Okay. And if you have too little, you can surround yourself with the metal people, or look at things like organization. And one of the things that's really good is like clearing your space. Okay, using that metal to clear your space, organize your thoughts. Okay, so that it will help clear your water. It's like a water purifier, like a Brita filter. That's what the metal helps, is to clear that water, collect the good water, and put it together. All right. So that's a lot about water. I hope that gives you some understanding of it. Thank you for joining us today and listening in. We hope to see you tomorrow at 8:15. We're going to talk more tomorrow with Chicha. All right. Thank you.